I've never really been good at making friends, and there's a good reason for that. I never stay in one place for long. You see, I'm a foster kid, so I keep getting shifted around all over. Different houses, different people, different rules every time. Most of the moves have been the same. A placement ends, someone decides they can't keep you, and you get sent somewhere else. It's not usually one big reason, just a few things that add up. Right now I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. This is my 5th placement. My latest foster family are actually all right. It's just the 2 of them. His name's Mark. He runs a small construction crew, mostly renovation work around the city. Leaves before I'm up most days and gets back late. His wife, Linda, works part-time at a clinic nearby. She's the one I see more. She keeps the place in order, makes sure things are done. She talks to me more than he does, checks if I'm all right, if I need anything. I think she tries, in her own way. Maybe because they never had kids. They're not difficult to live with, and I don't give them a reason to be. The house is in a decent part of the city. It's the first time I've had a room to myself. I don't remember how I entered into the foster system. One of the families I stayed with early on used to say I was left on the steps of a church. Said someone found me there, and that's how I ended up in the system. I don't know if that's true or just something they said to get a reaction. I didn't react, but I didn't stay with them much longer after that. I'm 16 now, turning 17 later this year. I go to Lakeview High, joined the 11th grade about 4 months ago, somewhere in the middle of the year. Took a bit to get used to it. You're moving around all day, different rooms, different teachers. First couple of weeks I was checking my schedule all the time, just to make sure I wasn't going to the wrong place. After that it starts to become routine. I kept to myself at first. That's just easier. The name on my file is Hazel. I'm a guy, so yeah, it gets a reaction. First day in any class, the teacher reads it out, hears a male voice answer, pauses for a second, then looks up just to be sure. It never fails to get a bunch of giggles. I was told my first foster family picked the name. Thought it would be funny. It used to get to me when I was younger. I'd try correcting people or snap back when they laughed. Didn't change anything. Now I just let it happen and move on. People lose interest quickly if you don't react. It didn't stay like that the whole time though. One day in gym, I was shooting hoops on my own before class started. A couple of them noticed and asked me to join. After that, it just kept happening. If a team was short, they'd call me over. In class, if someone didn't get something, they'd ask me instead of waiting for the teacher. At lunch, I'd get asked to sit with them instead of finding a spot on my own. And that's how it started. I finally began to make friends. I'd hear my name now and then, get asked to join in, and soon I wasn't on my own anymore. Derek was the first friend I made. He was the basketball captain, and he noticed I was good at it. He was one of the first to trust me enough to pull me into games properly. He was good in studies too, and since I'd joined late, he helped me catch up as well. He lived a couple of houses away and was an only child, so it just worked out that we started spending time together. After that, we started walking to school and back together most days. We'd talk about whatever came up. School, teachers, random stuff. One morning on the way to school, Derek mentioned his birthday was coming up in a couple of weeks. I didn't say much back, but it got me thinking. I don't actually know when mine is. July, according to my file, although that was probably just whatever date came to the first family's mind when they needed to write something down. I've never had a reason to question it. Never really celebrated it either, so it didn't matter much. That afternoon on the walk back, we went past a place on the corner that hadn't been open before. There was a big, bright sign that we noticed from down the street. North Star Family Pizza, it read. Through the glass, you could see arcade machines, colored lights, and a small stage area at the back with these large mascot figures. A banner across the window said something about a grand opening in roughly 3 weeks' time. Fun for the whole family, that kind of thing. I stopped and looked for a second. I confided in him I'd never really done that kind of thing. Birthday parties, being part of a group, all of it. Before Cleveland, I never even had friends. He just looked at me, nodded, and patted me on the shoulder. Didn't say much more than that, but that gesture was reassuring enough for me. A couple of days later, he showed up in the morning with an excited look. His dad had some connection to the people running the pizza place, through work somehow, as his dad was a well-known realtor. He said he could get us in before it opened to the public. It would be a small group of classmates, and we would be celebrating his birthday there. That's how it ended up happening. It was 10 of us from school, meeting up to celebrate Derek's birthday. Everyone made their own way there that evening. Derek and I went together since we lived nearby. The others were already outside when we arrived, or showed up a few minutes after. Lena and Nina, best friends since grade 5, had cycled over. Chloe came on her own. Marcus and Soren got there at the same time as us. Ben was already waiting by the door. Jacqueline was standing near the window when we walked up. Kyle showed up last, a little out of breath, saying he'd lost track of time. That was everyone. From the outside, it looked ready. The sign for North Star Family Pizza was up, the windows were clean, and the lights were already on inside. The banner was still there, grand opening in a week from now. Inside, it wasn't quite the same. The lights were a bit lower than we liked. Decorations were up, but they didn't really match. The carpet was new, but not laid properly everywhere. You could feel small ridges near the edges if you stepped wrong. Soren commented the place needed more work before it opened up next week. Arcade machines ran along one side of the room, a mix of older cabinets and newer ones. All of them were on, making a steady background noise. At the far end, near a small stage, there were 3 mascot figures with bright colors and fixed smiles. 3 workers were there, one behind the counter, one near the machines, and one going in and out from the back with food. They handed out tokens and brought pizza, fries, and soda in batches. The evening started normally. People spread out between the tables and the machines. A few of them went straight for the games. Someone was already trying the claw machine and getting annoyed with it. I was at one of the basketball machines with Derek, taking turns. Derek moved around a lot, making sure no one was left standing on their own. Kyle was louder than the rest. He didn't stay in one place for long. At one point, he went over to one of the mascot figures near the stage. It was leaning slightly to one side. He laughed and said it looked drunk. A couple of others walked over to see. He pushed it lightly and it barely moved, then just shrugged, said he was going to check something, and walked off toward the hallway near the bathrooms. After a while, Jacqueline asked where he'd gone. One of the workers said Kyle's parents had been in touch. An emergency had come up at home, so he had to leave in a hurry, and that Kyle had asked him to tell us he'd explain everything later. Derek said he'd seen him on his phone a little earlier. That seemed to settle it. We talked for a bit about what it could be, and hoped everything was all right at his place. Derek asked the worker once or twice if there'd been any callback, but there hadn't been, so we carried on without him. I stayed near the machines with Derek, and Marcus joined us. At some point, we heard Lena's voice from the other side of the room. She was talking to Jacqueline, upset about something. Said she and Nina had argued, and that Nina had just got up and said she was going to the bathroom, but hadn't come back. Jacqueline told her she was probably just upset and needed a minute. Lena said she'd go find her and walked off. We didn't make much of it, though Derek did point out that those two had been best friends for years, and he had never seen them fight. After a while, Soren said he was hungry, and that's when Derek pointed out the guy who'd been bringing food hadn't come out for some time. The music was still playing, but low. Marcus looked around and asked where the other 2 workers were, the one at the counter and the one near the machines. None of us had seen them in a while. Jacqueline said maybe they'd stepped outside for a break and went to try the front door. It didn't open. She pushed harder, then pulled her hand back quickly and said it was hot. Ben reached for the handle, touched it, and pulled back straight away. From where I was, I could see the metal had a faint red glow, like it had been heating up for a while. I asked where Lena and Nina were. They hadn't come back. People stopped moving. A few of them looked around, then at each other. No one really knew what to say. I asked again if anyone had seen them come back. No one had. Derek said we should check the rest of the place. Lena and Nina had to be somewhere. Same with the workers. He told us to split up, just enough to cover more ground and call out if we found anything. We shouldn't have listened to him. I went with Ben and Marcus. We headed toward the hallway near the bathrooms. I'd been down it earlier that evening. It hadn't been like this. It shouldn't have gone on for this long. Marcus slowed down and said the same thing. As we went further in, the place felt different, colder, and the ceiling had dropped lower as well. We kept going anyway. One of the doors along the hallway was open. I commented that I didn't remember it being there. Ben said he'd check it and stepped inside, and as soon as he did, the floor gave way under him. He turned back toward us for a second, eyes wide and hands flailing, like he was trying to grab onto something, and then he dropped out of sight as the door slammed shut. Marcus rushed forward before I did and grabbed at the handle. It didn't move. He pulled harder, then hit it with his shoulder, but nothing gave. I started shouting Ben's name, louder every time, but there was no answer. We both stood there for a moment. Marcus looked at me, and I knew he was thinking the same thing. There was nothing we could do for Ben anymore, so we had to turn back. The walk back also felt off, as though the corridor stretched out even further than before. When we finally stepped out into the main room, Derek, Soren, Chloe, and Jacqueline were already there, all of them looking straight at us. "Ben's gone," Marcus said. They stared at us while we explained what had happened. Derek kept looking past us toward the hallway, like he was expecting something to come out of it. Soren swore under his breath. Jacqueline started to cry, trying to hold it in but not managing it. No one said anything after that. Then Chloe let out a scream and pointed toward the stage. Her hand was shaking as she said one of the mascots had moved. We all looked. They were still standing there at the far end, bright colors, fixed smiles, exactly where they'd been. "I saw it," she said, her voice breaking. It moved." No one argued with her. We stepped back anyway, putting more distance between us and the stage, and ending up huddling closer together. There were 6 of us now. Me, Derek, Soren, Marcus, Jacqueline, and Chloe. Chloe kept glancing toward the stage. She hadn't taken her eyes off the mascots since she'd said they moved. Derek told her to stay close, but she kept mouthing something, and when Derek asked to speak up, she raised her finger at the stage and said, Where is it?" We whipped our heads towards the stage and noticed what she was saying. There were only 2 mascots up there. Suddenly, we heard another scream and turned back to see it was Chloe screaming. The mascot was right behind her. It still had that same fixed smile, only now its smile seemed pure evil. It bent forward, and its arms came down around her before any of us could react. She screamed and tried to pull away, but as soon as it grabbed her, the floor beneath her opened up just like it had done with Ben earlier, and the mascot dragged her down into the floor, her screams echoing on the way down. Then, as soon as she was gone, the gap closed again. Derek moved forward on instinct, but stopped himself, his foot hovering mid-step like he didn't know where it was safe to land. 5 of us left. Me, Derek, Soren, Marcus, Jacqueline. No one spoke. Soren didn't take his eyes off the stage. Marcus shook his head, saying it didn't make sense, like repeating it might fix something. Then Marcus asked if this was what had happened to Kyle too. The worker had said he went home, but no one had actually seen him leave. He was the first one to go near the mascots and was making fun of them. What about Nina and Lena, who never came back from the washroom? Then we saw what happened with Ben and Chloe. No one answered him. Suddenly, I saw something just behind Marcus which none of us had seen before. It was a door forming, and when it opened, another mascot stood inside a small room in the wall. I screamed at Marcus to turn around, but it was too late. The mascot grabbed him and started pulling him back into the wall. Derek lunged forward and caught his arm. For a second, it looked like he had him. Then his grip slipped. "It's too strong," he said, but the rest didn't come out. Marcus was dragged into the room, his eyes wide, locked on us, nothing but terror in them. As soon as he was pulled inside the wall, he too dropped straight down and out of sight, just like Ben and Chloe had before. The door immediately slammed shut and vanished into the wall again, like it had never been there. We were too shocked to move when Soren nudged me while pointing towards the stage. There was only one mascot left, and 4 of us. Me, Derek, Soren, and Jacqueline. We stayed close after that, near the center of the room, keeping distance from the walls and the doors. The arcade machines kept running. No one was playing them, but the sound just stayed there around us, reminding us of the deadly game that was being played with us right now. Time went by, not really sure how long. Derek kept scanning the room, his eyes shifting from one side to the other. Jacqueline had her arms wrapped around herself, still shaking. Soren stood still, quiet and watching, just like Derek. Suddenly, we heard a noise, and all of us jumped. One of the workers was standing near the counter, but none of us had seen him come in. He was just there, in the same uniform, standing the same way as before, like nothing had changed. He looked at us for a few seconds, and then, in a flat voice, said there was one more needed. He said it very straightforward, like he was repeating something he'd been told. After that, he continued, the rest of us could leave. Derek asked him what he meant. The worker repeated the same words again. One more was needed, and then the rest could go. He added, either we choose or they choose for us, after which the door would open for the remaining 3 to leave. Soren suggested we rush him and go for him, but Derek told him to wait, saying he had a feeling these things weren't human. Jacqueline was shaking beside him, not saying anything. I stepped closer to Derek. I told him I didn't know what to do, and kept my voice low so the others couldn't really hear. I told him I was scared and didn't want it to end like this. Then I told him he was the first person who'd actually been decent to me, that I didn't have anyone before him. He just looked at me with tears in his eyes. Behind him, I could see the remaining mascot had come down from the stage and was moving closer to us in a steady way. It almost felt like it was floating. Soren saw it too and didn't say anything. Derek looked at me for a moment, then at Soren, then at Jacqueline, and said, "When the door opens, just go." Soren realized what Derek was about to do and started to argue, but Derek cut him off. "Just go," he told us. Then he turned to the worker and said, "We have made our decision." The worker nodded and waved his hand. The front door clicked and opened, letting the cool outside night air in. We hugged Derek one last time and then walked out the door. We could imagine what was happening to him, but we didn't dare look back. We had barely made it half a block when we heard something behind us. We turned around and saw the whole place on fire. Flames were already coming through the windows, spreading fast. We ran further away from the building while Soren kept asking what was happening. That's when we heard the sirens. Fire trucks pulled in first, then police. People were shouting, moving us back. Soren told them about our friends still inside and the birthday party. Paramedics sat us down on the curb and checked us over. They called all our parents, including my foster parents. Police kept asking how many people had been inside, what had happened, what we'd seen. We answered what we could. I don't think any of it made much sense to them. When they asked for my name, I gave them the one on my file. Hazel. A few days later, I was walking back from school alone, now that Derek was gone. I passed by what was left of the pizza place. The building was gone, just a burnt shell, taped off. Police had been there for days. They still didn't have answers. The place wasn't properly registered. It had been bought through a shell company, some name that didn't lead anywhere real. They didn't understand what they were dealing with. I kept walking, and then I heard someone call my name. No, not Hazel. They called my real name. Azazel. I stopped and turned. A figure stood near the ruins, hood up, face mostly hidden. I walked up to him. "Well done, Azazel, on completing your 5th mission," he said. "It's time to clean up here. We'll be in touch for your next mission." That was all. I turned and walked away. My name is Azazel. I'm sure now that I say it, you know who I am. I'm here in this life in human form, but I know where I come from and the master I serve. This human life I am in currently has only one purpose: to wait for the missions to come. Different cities, sometimes different countries, but it always ends with the same task: collect 7 souls. My work in Cleveland was easy. Derek didn't come up with the idea of that pizza place. I put it there. A thought that feels like his own. When we were standing outside, I didn't need to say much. Just a few words, a nudge in the right direction, and the rest settles in on its own. By the next morning, it was already his idea. By the time he told the others, he believed it completely. After that, it didn't take much. At the party, Kyle was first. A simple phone call, the right voice, and the right urgency. He stepped away from the group on his own. Nina and Lena came next. That was simple. At that age, it doesn't take much to turn something small into something worth fighting over and walking away from. Ben followed. After that, it was about positioning, making sure everyone ended up where they needed to be without them realizing it. I kept Chloe and Marcus near the machines facing the stage. It didn't take much, just steering them back when they drifted, keeping their attention in the right place. Chloe saw the mascots first because I let her. Marcus came after. Then finally there was Derek, and that part always ends the same way. They choose. They always do. And so my mission was complete. 7 souls delivered. I don't fail my missions. That's why they send me. I stay here for a while after, with the foster family, at the school, through the funerals, keeping things as they should be, living this life for now. I wait for the next mission, and when it comes, I start again somewhere else. I don't know where it will be yet, but I'm looking forward to it.